Asked me a week ago, buy a Ledger. Absolutely, I use Ledger. A week later, fuck Ledger, burn it to the ground, smashing my Ledger with a hammer.
Boom, we're back. This is Pod 99s. Yes, you've got a few problems indeed, because this is the world's most bullish podcast brought to you by Mr. Orlin, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and surprise, surprise, even when we're on the 99, Mrs. No Show is still a no show. This, however, will not affect our ESG score because we will use gender fluidity, whatever we want him or her to be. Black, white, Chinese, Finnish, Spanish, Jamaican, Mexican, you name it, we'll make sure that she or he fits it. What's going on?
I
don't know where to go after that intro. So show 99, a bit special. I can't believe we're 99 pods in. The big 100 next week. What's the bettings on whether Mrs. No Show will turn up?
We have to put it out there right now.
Like 100 to 1.
Because she's going to be tipped off, isn't she, to turn up?
She won't even, because technically she won't even know that it is Pod 100, right?
Well, she did message a group about Ledger. She somehow caught onto the Ledger story a week later, asking what's going on today. Was that today?
Yeah, that was because of one of my tweets. So he saw the tweet calling anyone that's got a Ledger a moron. You need to move away. And so he's just terrified, going, "What the hell? You told me to use Ledger. Are you against Ledger now?" It's like, bro, you're a week behind. Ask me a week ago, buy a Ledger. Absolutely, I use Ledger. A week later, fuck Ledger, burn it to the ground, smashing my Ledger with a hammer. A lot can change in a week.
It's so true. This is the world of Bitcoin. A lot can change in a week.
But it was funny seeing someone just come in. I felt bad, It's one of them where it's he's a little bit more removed probably from like the Bitcoin chat and obviously I've recommended Ledger to a lot of people, and they've all gone out and spent their money, and I understand it is £100-200 or so to kind of redo your backup
toe tag,
to buy the hardware wallets and to buy some type of steel to put your words on. And you just go, well, look, it's fine, right? And because I'm in Bitcoin so deep, it's just, well, that's fine. I'll roll with that. Just £200 to secure, my net worth and to keep it away out of the government's grubby hands. It's a no-brainer. But sometimes you forget the average person that I've told to get into Bitcoin, they don't have that much money in, and it kind of was a bit of a hit to them to secure it with a Ledger and to buy some crypto steel or whatever. And they did it thinking, yeah, I'm done. And then something happens, and now I'm going, you got to change. I'm like, what? You told me to use this. I'm like, yeah, I was wrong. You need to choose this now. And they're like, you might be wrong again. I'm like, I might be, yeah.
I might be.
Do you want it secure or not? And it's like, oh, this is too hard. I might just convert it to fiat and put it back in the bank account. All right. It's definitely not secure there.
Yeah, so we have a bank crash. I think we have talked about this, because I think in reality you have got to review security regularly.
We did,
so it's like myself. I had the crypto steel prison safe, and I moved away from that because I assessed it and kind of went, I don't think it's as suitable as it should be. So I moved to the Tiny Seed, and it's the same with a Ledger now. So yeah, I have spent hundreds on Ledgers, and now I'm getting the or what they called the Jade. Yeah, the Jade hardware. What they call hardware wallet. Yeah. So I'm moving across. So I think it's one of those things you have to review it anyway. So it's like the discussions around safes about locations. It always needs to be constantly reviewed, like risk assessed. You are your own bank.
True.
And I think, we touched upon this in one of the stories as well, into a bit further detail.
I do think it is that it's the risk assessment of, well, it's an ongoing risk assessment, isn't it? And in Bitcoin, whilst the code remains the same, the threat each time is different, and the threat can change week by week, day by day. And if something happens, which we've come to find out was always there, which is even more scarier, then yeah, you need to pivot and then be ready. I guess to not alarm everybody, there is, as we mentioned last week, first of all, don't update your ledger. So don't opt in. And yeah, that is a key one. It's also the type of ledger that you may have had as well. So for those that took the time to watch the interview with the CEO from Ledger, talk about what's going on, they are offsetting a balance of various different tiers. You could leave your coins on the exchange, not a good idea, as silly as leaving money in the bank. Or you could then go to the next option, which is using a ledger of some sort, or a cold wallet, we should say, of some sort. That, of course, is more secure than the exchange. And then there's various different levels within the hard wallets themselves. There are Bitcoin only wallets, and then there are wallets which can have shitcoins as well as Bitcoin in there as well. And this particular wallet, Ledger, has now been found to and exposed that they can potentially send the keys back to themselves if required by the government or another party.
Yeah. But that's only when an update happens. So correct. I suppose the kind of question is around, can we force updates? And then they're admitting this. Is there a way which they can do it without an update? That's probably the big question in the back of my head, is kind of like going, oh, no, you have to have an update. And it's actually, there's a backdoor in here.
How do we know the update hasn't already been there?
Yeah. How do you know anything? Because this is the whole premise around buying ledgers, is they're not accessible by the outside world. Now we find out they can be, and then it may slip to, well, actually they are.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we say don't update your hardware wallet. That only works for so long, right? I say don't update your hardware wallet straight away, but if you wait months or years without updating it, eventually that software will become incompatible with Ledger Live or whatever. Like, it literally will get out of sync. So Ledger Live is a great example. Ledger Live didn't used to exist. You used to have to download a different app. And then Ledger Live came out, and you had to update your firmware on your hardware device to access it. If you didn't, you didn't get access. Now, they could bundle in whatever they want with that. Yeah, because Ledger is closed source, not open source, so people can't look at the code. They don't know what's going on. So the update can say, oh, it's just this. And in reality, there could be a whole load of hidden things underneath. You don't know. That's why I think it's so important. I didn't really realize this until now, to go with an open source wallet. So every single time an update gets pushed, they publish the code. So someone can go through that code and go, is there anything in here that you didn't say? Was it meant to be in here? Like, it's possible that this company could take your keys, split them in 3, encrypt them, and send them to 3 different companies. And so basically our first 3 stories this week are all about this, right? Because it's just confirming, like, literally it's breaking news, wasn't it? I think it broke about 2 hours before the pod last week. And it turned out, it should probably been the title and everything. It's because it was the biggest story of the week. But essentially, Ledger support have now confirmed, and this is one of their tweets, right? So technically speaking, it is and always has been possible to write firmware that facilitates key extraction. You have always trusted Ledger not to deploy such firmware, whether you knew it or not. So this is from the @Ledger support account, right? So this is them confirming that they absolutely can take your keys and push it via firmware. The understanding before to this was that was not the case. No matter what Ledger did, they could not get your keys. This now, it's supposed to be on a separate chip. It confirms it now no longer is. The two chips talk, and if the main chip wants to talk to the other chip that generated the key, it absolutely can. Terrifying, right? Totally terrifying. And you go, well, yeah, it's an opt-in service. Not everyone has to use it. Blah blah blah. Next story is the Ledger co-founder and former CEO. If you are a Recover user, which is the Recover is their name for the service, and have your shard into safeguarded by third parties, then yes, a government could subpoena them and get access to your funds. So now, suddenly, using a ledger is no different to having it in the bank, because it's the same virtually. Like, because a lot of, obviously, you're probably slightly safer actually, because if Ledger go bust, you still have your Bitcoin. Whereas if a bank go bust, you lose your Bitcoin. But one of the reasons why we are keeping our Bitcoin in self-custody is because we don't trust the government, because when their fiat money collapses, they're going to try and seize the money that is sound. And that's Bitcoin. This now they could pass a law at any point and go, Bitcoin is legal to hold. You're not allowed to hold more than 10,000 Satoshis. Any more than that has to be issued into a government-run bank. We'll look after it and give you IOUs. Exactly what happened in the gold standard, right? This is exactly what they did. They made it illegal to own more than 1 ounce of gold. And if you had any more, you had to go and take it to the bank yourself. And weirdly, people did. They freely gave it to the banks. But in this case,
we should probably say there was no doubt some spin around it at the time, because it's easy to think around it now. But yeah.
Well, back then it was you're keeping your country safe, as in we need your gold to secure the future of the USA, to turn it into the war machine which it's become, so it can attack smaller countries, take them over, steal their resources, steal the world's gold. That's why we need your gold.
This time around, it will be, we need to fight the war in Russia. We need to stop climate change, tackle the cost of change, the cost of living crisis,
carbon neutral,
they'll have a load
terrorism,
of and it'll be like, so we want your Bitcoin, and it's terrifying to know that by using Ledger, the government could have stolen my keys. I can't wait, and it terrifies me that it's still on there right now, because the Jades haven't arrived yet. So, and it's good though, because this time last week, all there was the Ledger marketing department had released this new service, and everyone had gone, holy fuck, this sounds bad. It's nice that the company is now confirmed, yes, it is bad. And the CEO's also gone, it's even fucking worse than you thought. So, okay, that's good. Thank you for confirming that this wasn't just people being a bit alarmist. It's real.
But like I said, I'm just worried there's a further level on this, but it's already there. And there's already a backdoor. If they did get subpoena, then literally they could open a backdoor which wouldn't even need this Recover service.
Yeah, well, imagine like the subpoena, right? The subpoena could just say, user X, you know which one it is because you got the device ID of every user that you sent one to. This is the user we give a shit about. Send him an update, force the update, next time he switches it on, and freeze his funds and send them to this address.
Or that could freeze the ledger.
Shut it down. Yeah.
Shut it down.
Just actually, no, that wouldn't stop him though. You need to steal the funds because he's still got his words and all that stuff. Stealing the funds is the big bit, right? So, and they could do it just by user ID. They have a device ID that connected to you, so they would have the device IDs for me. They could go target this person. That could be what the subpoena says, right? The subpoena doesn't need just to say, oh, he's already installed the update, freeze funds, because he opted into the freeze fund facility. Really, it should just be target them. So, and I'm fully expecting these types of government attacks, because they'll just go to Ledger and go, every single UK user, update this form of software now. And then if they don't comply to XYZ rules, we're going to give them loads of time to send their Bitcoin freely. But if they don't, we will steal it. We just have to move off them. It's just, there's no, and in reality, what we need to do is move to, an open source and self-built version of Jade that essentially you can buy the microchips yourself, you can download the Jade software yourself, get the hardware wallet running, and then you store and generate your seed phrase from it. Now, the only update that a device is ever going to fucking get is from you. Because there's no company
Okay,
behind it.
just got some breaking news that all of our listeners and viewers have just gone, because that is like next level.
Yeah.
I think you're right. There's now a space in the market, and you're talking about the self-generation, but it's having a package which ultimately does that. You know, that is the next product, isn't it? This is now there is a gap in the market. So, like we talked about last week about the air gap computer, so basically a computer which is offline, never been online, could never be infected, but it's having a hardware wallet which is fundamentally the same, is open source and can't have updates, can't have anything on it, so it can't be, you know, connected through. That is, you know, it's on its own. Somehow there needs to be a process which keeps everything offline and doesn't allow access. It is the next phase of this.
Yeah, it's probably also worthwhile just taking it a step further as well, in terms of the KYC Bitcoin or shitcoins, whatever it is that is then onto the ledger. You could trace it that way as well.
Well, let's point this out.
Exchange.
Jade is solely Bitcoin, so let's not bring back those dirty words in.
Well, exactly. Well,
a question which I did have was, we watched a video a number of weeks ago around Nigeria and how they were storing the seed phrases on nuts and bolts. What was their hardware wallet? Was it a phone or something? Or were they just generating it on a central computer and then all, like, you know, holding it on this?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was on their phone, because the phone wallets have seed phrases.
Okay, so a little bit problematic, because obviously you've got to hide that nuts and bolts, and also it's on your phone, which has got many vulnerabilities. But I suppose it's possibly their only way.
Yeah, it's the cheapest way by far. But yeah, you wouldn't recommend having your net worth of Bitcoin on a hot wallet that's on your phone, permanently connected to the internet. It's extremely dangerous to do that. But if you can't do it, then all you could really do is then split it across multiple wallets and stuff.
Yeah, to reduce the chances. But I think there's got to be something. There's got to be developments of how we do approach it, like the poorer nations are developing, third world, and then also just every user. So it is completely self-sovereign, decentralized. So we're not worried about this, and no one's at risk. You know, the only risk is you being a moron and losing it or trying to be too clever. Kind of, you know, going on to the first, well, we are on the first story about Ledger, but I was just going to say what's interesting about this is they're both Reddit links and both the posts were taken down. So not something which I'd really expect, because from what I've seen on the discussions, because I read the comments, I couldn't see what the original post was. It didn't look like it was, you know, that bad. It's literally just saying, don't trust Ledger. You know, it's the fundamentals. One is they confirm the news, which we talked about with the former CEO, and meaning that the government could freeze your funds. Why have those threads been, you know, deleted? Well, the main post been deleted.
No, it suggests that Ledger have influence over the Bitcoin subreddit, and they don't want those stories there.
Yeah, because there is a link in one of the comments, and it's the what is it? The former CEO. So Ledger co-founder and ex-CEO Eric Larkovec, Ledger co-founder and CEO from 2014 to 19. He's not anymore. It says, what a horrible mess. I'm devastated to come on this subreddit that I created 9 years ago to see the images of Ledger devices burning, insults and lots of anger. I'm honestly on the verge of tears. So potentially it's him.
He's confirmed that he owns Reddit then. Yeah, he owns the
subreddit. So he's basically deleted it all.
That's a real bad look for him. Like, at least own it, right? Like, this criticism's real. It's genuine.
So here's what's interesting. So I only found this post just before. My first step is to apologize as a co-founder about how this launch has been handled. So it's not about the fact this vulnerability was put in. It's about how it's handled. I can't help but wish this had been done differently. So
Because
they wanted.
he keeps on talking about the wording, that the wording was incorrect and that they should have taken more time around how they explained the functionality to users, and that it's really kind of just been all blown up out of proportion.
He just doesn't get it. You know, you'd expect these people to be Bitcoiners to be in this space from 2014, you know, like hardcore. Fair enough, they do shit coins, but that's for profit. But this, you know, another line is, to me, all this meltdown is a total PR failure. So, okay, PR, but but absolutely not a technical one. It's
But it was
either
weird.
he meant to do this, or he does belong to a government, or he just doesn't get it because he's a shitcoiner.
Yeah, well, I found it very, very strange that when he was on the other podcast that we don't talk about, he didn't necessarily seem to that first when the other guy said, "Thank you for your fuck up. It's made my sales 30x." It's just like fantastic, great. People are getting off the exchanges, brilliant. I'm glad that it's going to you.
They're
It's
not.
like,
They're not getting off the exchanges. They're getting off Ledger, you idiot.
yeah.
So that
And I was just
single
like,
penny being spent right now, like we're spent, like I'm sure Jade's sales have gone through the roof as well.
yeah.
I don't think Jade's
not,
ever had this publicity.
We're not new people that have, oh, we've had money on the exchange for ages and suddenly need a Jade. It's like, no, every single hardware wallet being bought now pretty much is the offboarding from Ledger.
Yeah.
But you can sit there all you want and go, oh, it's fantastic. I love people buying hardware wallets. It's like, you know, every single buyer currently owns a Ledger and they will never use it again. The second the Bitcoin's off, I'll probably just throw it in the bin because I wouldn't give it to anyone. I don't. Like, what would I keep one for now? I just like maybe
you could sell it on eBay.
Perfect. I can use a load of them as decoy hardware wallets.
You could sell
That's
it.
What I was thinking.
You could sell it on eBay to some shitcoiners. So put their Doge on it or something.
I'll put some malware on it first and then just sweep it the second they put their Doge on it.
I was thinking more of the decoy wallet.
Yeah, it's a point. Maybe that is the use, but it is annoying. But like I said, it's just, I think it's it's a path of a Bitcoiner as far as I see it. Like, we've got to tread this path with, you know, our seed phrase storage, our storage locations, safes, and then also the Ledger hardware as well. So I kind of think it annoys me, but I'm also kind of just going, you know what, this is just the way.
Yeah, it happens, doesn't it? I mean, it happened with, and thankfully we should count our blessings that we haven't lost anything, and we've sat here then, you know, wallowing in pity that something.
I don't
really
know about
bad.
not losing things. I've still got that precious, what is it, £50 or £100 of Bitcoin sitting on some exchange. I can't work out to get off because back from when I was shitcoining / not knowing what I was doing back in 2017 when I bought, was it XRP on some dodgy exchange? And then when I actually tracked it down, I sold it, bought Bitcoin, and now I don't know how to get the Bitcoin off it. So I'm currently lost. You know, that £100, that could be, you know, like a couple of houses in a number of years.
Sure.
Or a Lambo.
What colour Lambo?
Oh, I think it has to be orange.
Yeah, but you're right though. Like this could have been our Mount Gox moment.
Yeah,
and we could have all been wiped out. And yeah, it's fucking terrifying. So if anything, we just need to thank our lucky stars that in reality it's going to cost us £200 or something to reset
exactly.
our backup, and then we're back off. Like, it could have been, oh yeah, down all those stats you've been stacking, gone. Probably should have actually left them on fucking Coinbase. They'd have been safer there, which is just, oh my god! Just imagine that going.
I think it's just another kick to keep on reevaluating what we're doing. So this is, you know, the security isn't just where your ledger and your seed phrases are. it's now also what are you using? What could be traced back? Because, with TinySeed or, whatever metal backup you guys are using, there's no way to trace it. There's literally, they've mailed it out to you. So fair enough as that trace, but the actual device, when you've stamped it, there's no link to it. So, that's secure. So it's looking at all those different phases and making sure you are happy with security. And when you perceive it to be a risk, evolving what you're doing. And I think with Jade, for me, it's a step, but I know there's going to be the further step, which is how do we have something which is a bit more secure, hasn't got any dependencies on a company or another person? How do we make sure it is secure?
Yeah. Every time you plug that device in, you don't want to think, oh, is it downloading something right now?
Mm.
And if it's your own device that just has the software you installed on it, it won't. And then you can check the GitHub of Jade and go, oh, is there an update that I want to install at some point? Has it been well tested?
Yeah,
I'm
probably gonna have to spend a bit of time looking through that myself. Like, whilst I'm not the best coder, I'm going to spend a bit of time just looking after what's happened.
It's even things like the T's and C's, though. Let's be honest, no one really reads the T's and C's, but or the full updates of what am I getting, and then having the ability to understand them. We always say, well, maybe don't do it straight away and let the others do it. But, it's having that. I think that now has raised my alarm bells to take my time and then think, okay, get the old law degree out and remembering and thinking, right, what am I doing here?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because the problem with Ledger's updates, I stopped reading them anyway because it's just full of shit. It's like, oh, it's going to support this NFT, the sending of this coin.
I suppose that's a benefit, isn't it?
All this bollocks. Like, I didn't even want to do the update, but it was like, oh, you can't do this thing until you've updated your firmware. So I'm like, well, I've got to update the fucking firmware, haven't I? And it's like, what am I introducing Bitcoin SHIB with support for that can send an NFT? What is that? I don't want to update to that firmware, but I had to. It got big warning flags and stuff like, oh, if you want to reset this device or whatever, you have to download the latest firmware. And well, so you have to do it. So at some point, I'd have had to download this firmware that had the possibility for me to just ring them up or email them and switch recover on. So there's nothing stopping someone getting in the middle, saying I've switched it on, and then taking my 3 seeds. And
what's that called? Man in the middle attack.
Yeah, or just someone in their support team, right? Because who are you emailing to switch on Ledger Recover? It's going to be some admin person in Ledger. I don't mean their fucking CEO or anything. It's going to be some low-level employee that clicks, oh yeah, this person's subscribed, and they're now paying the $9.99 a month or whatever it was, and so they're subscribed. So now we can receive 3 shards of their key. They go to these 3 places. How hard is it for that admin person just to go, oh, who do I think's got a load of Bitcoin? Or just let's start switching it on for loads of people. And when these 3 shards come out, let's just redirect them. Or maybe there's 3 people in 3 of the companies that are all working together. It's not that hard. Like the inside job is the easiest job to do, right? You don't have to hack from the outside. Just get 3 low-level employees into each of the 3 companies that have the shards, switch this device, this service on for fucking all users without them knowing behind the scenes, or just target some high net worth users, and then just put the shards together and steal it, and then just quit.
Yeah.
And they're gone. I
think this is the biggest fuck up which we've had, isn't it, as a collective, so all Bitcoiners. So I was just having a look at the Reddit. So one is being removed by the moderators, and the second one is pending moderator approval after so many days. So obviously they don't want it on, and they're just going to ignore it. But the first comment, kind of getting onto what you were saying there, Mr. Orlin, was so many people here on this subreddit used to recommend ledgers. I used to see people get downvoted for saying they don't trust the closed source. Now so many people finding out it's better to be a little paranoid. So, exactly spot on. You need the open source. You can't trust it. You can't trust someone else.
Just what you said there, Mr. Orlin, reminded me of like the film Ocean's 11. And, somebody, or between the groups, all of them getting involved in all 3 separate companies.
Yeah.
and then conspiring together. And it sounds far-fetched, but hey, this magic internet money seems to have something about it, doesn't it? You know, governments want to ban it, banks want to ban it, people want to steal it.
And
Might have a little bit of value.
yeah, there's $500 billion worth of Bitcoin, right? And I don't know what 20% of it or something is on Ledger. So what's that? 100 trillion? No, 100 billion.
Jesus.
100 billion. $100 billion worth of Bitcoin is sat probably in Ledger. So
Yeah.
is it not worth trying to infiltrate the three companies and just sending 10 people into all three companies, trying to get someone a job that ends up getting to be the seniority enough where they can make that kind of attack? And you build up years of credibility, and then bang, you abuse your power and you steal $100 billion. It's going to be worth it. That's worth
get the software in and then coordinate the attack from the three different companies.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. I hope that everyone who's listening to this does feel the same, isn't lazy, and actually orders a new ledger of some sort, whether it be Cold Card or whether it be Jade.
Cold Card or Jade. They're the two to go to. Don't go to any of the others. They're Bitcoin.
Unless you're going to get an air gap computer and do it yourself, unless you're very technically capable. But I think it is dangerous just to sit.
One. Is that
shitcoin?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it open source or closed source?
It is open source, but it's got shitcoins all through it. So I
think that's another.
I have a couple of Trezors, but I don't want to use them.
I think that's another thing to consider is after this debacle where they're doing things to shitcoiners, it's getting rid of unwanted updates as a final one, and also as a consequence, vulnerabilities. So vulnerabilities could be short-lived, but they could still be made if they're making loads of updates to satisfy owners of NFTs and whatever the hell else is going to be happening in the next cycle.
Bitcoin updates, what is it, once every 2 years or something, and they're relatively minor updates that usually the hardware wallet doesn't even need updating for. So if your firmware wallet is updating every time you plug it in, which admittedly Ledger virtually does that with me, then it should be a red flag to go, what the fuck's it doing? Why is it? Because Bitcoin's not changing. So why the fuck is your hardware wallet changing? And it's because they're keeping up with all the shit coins. So when you move to Bitcoin only, you should only be updating once every year, once every two. At the most, probably shouldn't even be updating that much. And if they are pushing extra features and all these bells and whistles, then again, it should be a red flag to go, what are they doing? We all know what we want a hard wallet to do. I want my hardware wallet to be really boring, really dull. It should just be to have a wallet that generates a key, and I want that secure. I want it to do nothing else. Nothing. And hopefully the people that are building these hardware wallets freaking understand that.
Like I said, I'm looking forward to the next jump of things. I think we talked about at the end of last week's show, but this is in the list. This is the once. How are we going to jump forward in that self-sovereignty and decentralized ownership?
Well, again, it's one of those things where we kind of need these things to happen. So we needed Mt. Gox to mess up. We needed, because, that brought about a lot more exchanges. Before Mt. Gox, there wasn't that many exchanges. We needed FTX to mess up and blow up.
We needed Quadriga.
Yeah, we needed Quadriga. That was the one I was thinking of, yeah.
I think FTX is the one, though. I think Quadriga was too isolated in Canada. So, it didn't impact, whereas FTX affected people all around the world and the publicity. So I think it helped a lot. But it has been used by the governments quite a lot to pin the blame on Bitcoin rather than the fact that the fiat systems were horrendous and they weren't actually monitored. Gary Gensler was too busy thinking about stakes rather than actually looking at the processes.
Yeah.
But I think with this, like the other chain of thought, which leads quite nicely into the next story, is most people won't want to do all this. The next one is a post for a video on Twitter where he finds it too too much of a stress, too much of a hassle. And he wants someone to do it. And he wants an insurance package where he can pay 5% or something and someone else can manage his Bitcoin for him. I think there is two chains of thought here, but 90% of the population want this. But then when you try and take something away from the government, the power, the money, you can't afford to have this. So how would you get people to actually think the way of the Bitcoin maxis in the fact that you need to take ownership? Because most people will be like, nah, I'll pay my 5%. And that's all right if you just pay them 5%. But then again, the compound would absolutely bloody kill you. But with that, you've also then got the Riskwell subpoena. Bam, your Bitcoin's gone.
Yes. It's a garbage take, right? So I'll play the clip.
Some company's going to come along and they're going to offer some sort of insurance package. That's what I want. I don't want to be responsible for my keys. I want to say, here's my keys, you're responsible, and if something happens, then guess what? I'm coming after you, baby. You're going to be responsible for my wealth. That's going to be a key, and I'll pay 5% for that. I don't mind paying 5%.
Yeah. And I don't know how this guy got on the Bitcoin 2023 panel, because he's sat there. He's one of the guys that once one of the talks finishes, they throw back to the desk, and he sat there. And obviously they're talking about this Ledger debacle, and I don't know whether he's just trying to be a contrarian and have something new to say.
Do you know who is he?
Fucking no idea, and I'm glad I don't know who he is. He's a fucking clown. And then he says it's fine. He goes, yeah, it's fine. Who cares if there's some risk? But what I want is then you kind of go, I want there not to be a risk, and I just want to pay 5% to know my keys are secure. And you go, you don't get Bitcoin, do you? Like, you're meant to secure your own keys. The second you're trusting someone else, you might as well leave the money on the exchange or leave the money in the bank. Because out of all the institutions, weirdly, like when people go, but who do you trust the most, right? Out of all the retail stores, the banks, the government, like, well, you probably don't trust any of them a lot, but who do you trust the most? Banks do come out top. They do tend to come out top, banks. They go, yeah, they're corrupt and but will they steal from me? No. But it tends to be the case, right? So at the moment, the best place to put your money in fiat land is in the bank. And to be fair, I would agree as well, because they're going to get bailed out first. They are the cornerstone of the fiat financial system. So they absolutely are going to be the last things to fall. I wouldn't leave my money in Amazon vouchers or Apple vouchers. No, I would leave it in fiat, in pounds, and I'd put it in one of the biggest banks in the world and hope for the best if I wasn't into Bitcoin. But we are in Bitcoin, and the whole point about being in Bitcoin is not to trust third parties. We know this financial system is going to collapse, so even the biggest bank will fail. Every single citizen needs to hold their own keys. That's the point. There's no percent I would pay for someone to go, I've got you. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. If you have my keys, you don't got me. At any point, you could have a government official, someone could put a gun to your head, someone could put a gun to your kid's head and go, give me the keys. And you're going to give them the keys. So that needs to be on me. And the problem is we don't want these central honeypots anyway. Every single person needs to hold their own keys. So at least then, for the government to come get that Bitcoin, they have to come round to each and every one of us to get it. If we put it all into these honeypots, like whichever company he wants to do, send his 5% of his Bitcoin to him, which is an insane high percentage, by the way. Just absolutely ridiculous to say that. Like, what if you've got like 100 million in Bitcoin? He's like, oh yeah, I'm paying 5% a year. You're paying 5 million a year. Just shut up, mate. All these companies are clearly going to be the honeypots that are going to get targeted by government officials or by criminals, because then it's way worth. Like in one hit, you get thousands, if not millions, of people's Bitcoin, right? It's much harder going house to house. So we absolutely, for Bitcoin to thrive, the millions of Bitcoiners that already exist, we all need to hold our own keys. We all need to be independent, which makes it a much harder attack vector for them to take us down. If we trust these third parties, man, one hit overnight, the FBI could shut down Bitcoin if there was just 10 companies that held all our keys. They'd hit them all at the same time. Done. Government own all our Bitcoin. Oh well, good try, lads. But I
But
guess
it's
the
never
back onto
happened.
fiat
Why would
standard.
you think that? It's never happened before.
Other than every single time.
Yeah, I think anyone who doesn't get that reference, it's once again going back to when was it after the Second World War when the US made owning gold illegal. And in the UK, I think everyone was asked to trade their gold in as well, as they basically screwed over the population and paid for the infrastructure, devalued everyone's savings by giving them useless fiat.
Anyway, let's move on to a nicer thing that happened at Bitcoin 2023. It did happen last week. So
I was going to say it's not so nice, this one, because the app isn't available yet, is it?
Jack Mallers' announcement.
Yeah, have you tried to download the Strike app?
What, in the UK? Yeah, it's not there. If you watch this presentation, he tells you it's not there yet.
I
I was going to
watch it,
say,
but
what did
I don't think I picked that one. I thought he was saying it's going to be available. When's the date?
No, it's not. He showed you the map, and the UK unfortunately isn't on it. So before we skip that, anyway, it's just basically all his announcement is that before Strike was available, I think in very limited countries. I think it's America and maybe a couple of others. He had a map up, right? And then because he's got a very good financial regulatory agreement from El Salvador, it's given him access to 3 billion people on the globe. But a lot of it is Africa, South America, Asia. It doesn't seem to have hit a lot of Europe, because I would imagine El Salvador don't have authority to pass certain financial regulations over there.
I'm guessing it doesn't include Argentina.
I don't know. Well, we are Bitcoin banned there anyway, so yeah, I guess it does. But yeah, the good thing is, I don't know. He didn't say what Strike currently had, how many users it had access to, but now it has access to 3 billion. And Strike, just to anyone that doesn't know what Strike is, it is a really cool payment app, and it allows you to send any type of fiat currency and have it arrive at the other end, or Bitcoin, by the way. You can send fiat or Bitcoin, and the receiver can choose what currency they receive it in. So I could send pounds, and the receiver can receive dollars or yen or Bitcoin, or I could send Bitcoin because I'm on a Bitcoin standard. I want to pay in Bitcoin. The person I'm paying wants euros. So in the middle, Strike will exchange the Bitcoin for the equivalent in euros and give the person euros. So essentially, it just builds that circular economy. Everyone wants to use different forms of money, of course, and it's zero fees, because he's basically built a TransferWise that also uses the Bitcoin rails and Lightning to enable zero fees and all that kind of good stuff. So it is a very cool app that essentially suddenly means, well, some people might be on a Bitcoin standard, the majority won't be. That is literally how the adoption of money will always happen. There's always a minority, and the majority is using the old stuff. So this allows, if everyone was on Strike, for example, people on a Bitcoin standard could just continue paying in Bitcoin, but the person receiving it can receive it in whatever currency they want for as long as they want. And so it's just seamless, right? You don't have to educate your local greengrocer or your butcher. Oh, I want to pay in Bitcoin. You need a Bitcoin wallet, and after fucking talking all through it, you just go, oh, I'm paying a Bitcoin. And he's like, well, I want pounds. So his device at his end is set to convert whatever currency he receives into pounds. So this is how we get mass adoption. It's very clever.
It's how you get dual currency. So El Salvador being one where you got the US dollar, and Bitcoin working as dual currency. So you can literally go, some people don't want it, some people do. Send it through.
Yeah.
You have to know as well that people aren't just going to convert straight away. So having the two run side by side will allow people to eventually make the decision themselves, and then people will drop the fiat currency. And because essentially after a while it'll be like, oh yeah, this way is much easier, or I get more benefit from this. Let's do it this way.
Yeah. Well, it'll purely be the spending power of this one keeps going down, the spending power of Bitcoin keeps going up.
Do you Do you not enjoy inflation?
2 or 3% is okay, but no more.
It sounds like you're not patriotic enough.
Member of the far right extremist group.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, so good announcement. Yeah, I kind of missed the country roadmap. I was listening to it, but not watching it.
Oh yeah, he put it on a map. But the thing is, like, out of everything though, like, did you any of you like really pick up anything massive that came out of Bitcoin 2023?
No,
I didn't.
I've been on my YouTube feed and thinking, oh, is there anything that I've been missing? And no, nothing. It's just been some good talks, good people there in terms of, the classic Sailor, Lynn Alden, Max and Stacey, but nothing like hard hitting.
My takeaway really is, I think once you've been in Bitcoin like 3 to 5 years, maybe 3 years is maybe the tipping point where you just go, you don't really learn anything from conference anymore. The main benefit of conferences is to go and meet some Bitcoiners and have a chat and have a beer, go for a steak with them. That's fun. But you don't learn anything from the talks anymore because so much of it is just the same stuff over and over and over. So really, you're just waiting for another El Salvador announcement, isn't it? Everyone's waiting for the killer hardware device, or freaking this other country have just adopted Bitcoin. That's where you kind of going, oh, I would like to be at the event when the big announcement's made, type of thing.
Yeah.
And but I think El Salvador, really, out of all the events I've ever been to, most of them had no announcements like that. It's just another update to a hardware device, another exchange is getting launched. Like, in reality, who kind of cares, right? But then the El Salvador stuff was genuinely, no one was predicting it. No one even knew what El Salvador, even where it was, or is it a country? Is it what? And then bang, it's like the first country going into a Bitcoin standard. I think everyone keeps going now to Bitcoin 2023. They'll go again to 2024, hoping that that's where the next big announcement happens. But it probably won't.
I think everything's just being set up at the moment. Like we talked about, like the business lightning network through MicroStrategy, as we were discussing, the next phase of holding your Bitcoin. So I think there's going to be a few things which come through, and obviously there's things being developed throughout Lightning. So there's that layer which we talked about probably a couple of months ago now. I think we had the top 5 things which were coming through. So I think some of the kind of like groundwork is being covered at the moment, but yeah, there's nothing big straight away coming. And I think we're going to have to wait a couple of years for that one. It's been boring, a couple of years, but then we do, like, was it Burma? I'm using my hydro power for Bitcoin mining, and actually how big it is there, but no one realized until that story came out.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, really, is the fact that, like, the stories we cover on here week to week, there's massive stuff in fiat land of them just fucking setting their whole world on fire. And Bitcoin just keeps going strength to strength. But then sometimes you go, oh, Bitcoin 2023 is coming. And we've had loads of big stories, all these mining facilities opening, new ledgers, new exchanges, new hardware wallets, all this kind of really big stuff. And you go, okay, so there's loads of stuff happening in Bitcoin, but I bet there's been a load saved up from Miami 2023. And then you go, right. Every year Jack Mallers does something, which I hate to say, he's kind of hogging the limelight now, and every year you just must be scratching around. What am I going to say this year? And so you're kind of going, well, we can't always be Jack. Let's not like put all the pressure on Jack Mallers to be the guy that is progressing Bitcoin on his own. And you go, who else has got something to say? And I don't know, not many people had much to say that was breaking news other than the standard Bitcoin talking points, which I think if you're new to Bitcoin or if you're a shitcoiner right now, super valuable to hear. You need to hear this stuff to get you to be a Bitcoin maxi. But for people that already are Bitcoin maxis, it's a bit like, well, it's just a really long podcast.
Yeah, having a look through all the bits on Bitcoin Magazine, you've got one which is titled Regulation and Compliance, which I won't be watching. There's obviously stuff by Jack Mallers. I think Michael Saylor's got a little segment. You've got the usual people. Oh, what's his name? Samson Mao has got one about Indonesia Bitcoin mining. But I think aside from Jack Mallers, the top one is RFK, isn't it? That's a big story this year. but it's not really a story because he's not anything yet.
No, he seemed to say something positive about Bitcoin a couple of times, but is he on a Bitcoin standard? Would he move America onto a Bitcoin standard if he became president? No, he's not saying any of that. He's at the moment all he's really doing is doing a classic run for
Win
president
votes.
campaign.
Yeah, exactly
He's
that.
like,
It's
there's
just
a lot of people here. Vote for me. What do you want to hear? Bitcoin's great. Bitcoin's great. Yeah, you got my vote. And then he runs off to the fucking, and his next conference will be at the banks. You go, dude, this guy ain't one of us. Not like he's anti-establishment, but he's not a Bitcoiner yet. He's got a long way to go until he's a Bitcoiner.
Is he right or left? Is he Democrat or Republican?
Weirdly, he's a Democrat.
I was going to say, because that anti-establishment seems to be how the Republicans roll at the moment.
It's very rare to see someone that outspoken being a Democrat. They normally hugely toe the line.
Well, I'm sure it was last year that Jack Dorsey was at the Miami Bitcoin event, and he then talked about bringing out his own hardware wallet. And still, a year on, we're no longer there. So
he was a 3-factor authentication. So I think it was device, person, and a third-party company. And 2 of the 3 had to be used in conjunction with each other. So, like, if you lost your device, then I think it's some biometrics from yourself along with the company. So you'd have to prove to the company you are who you say you are, could open it up. But that was like the last which we heard of it. It hasn't been anywhere. And I kind of went, maybe that's one because Ledger wants to use 2 out of 3 companies. And it's just like, well, that's fucking irrelevant, isn't it? It's got to be something which is once again decentralized. So the biometrics you'd hope could be, but I'd worry that they could be, a hack or a manipulation of whatever the software is.
But the problem is with all these things, like you have to assume, like, even if you want to have a backup of your words in some shape or form, you still have to go, one of the keys has to be with the user. So you can have all the keys, right? So you can have your words, but if you're ever going to trust third parties with parts of your seed, you have to go, right, well, I'll split it up into 3, into 4, into 5, whatever. But all those pieces need to be meaningless without the final piece. And you have to have the final piece. And it's a case of, if you lose the final piece, which is the backup to the backup, right? So your main backup was here, but then your second backup, if that one fucks, you've got this one. And on its own, it's still nothing. But there's 4 other companies that have got the majority of your key. And then once you put all the 5 pieces together, your words will be present. If the second you're going, no, I want to split it into 5 and just give it to 5 companies, you go, well, you're nuts. You have to hold some accountability. There has to be some on the user. You can't have any that is completely offsite. So then on Jack Dorsey one, it's like, I think he was going, you got 1 key plus your biometrics, and then we have a key as well. But then I just go, the second I go, I know I'm going to have the key, and then they have 4. I just go, well, why don't I just split my device into 2 then, really, and have 2 sets of backup words, store them. If one goes wrong somewhere, at least I have the others. The second I start giving out anything, if I still have to protect 2 of the 3 keys and 1 of the keys with a company, then why can't I just look after the whole key? Right?
Yeah.
I think it's honestly is a solution looking for a problem when it comes to Bitcoin land, because you just have to be competent enough, right? And we were talking about it before the pod, and I've shoving some chickens out in a coop, and they're out there for the first time tonight. And I've never seen a fox in the area for a year that I've lived here. Literally 2 nights ago, a fox walking straight through the field. But I know that fox is going to try and get in that chicken coop, and I don't think he can. I put a lot of freaking things in it, but I've tried to secure it the best I can. And guess what? He might get in, but then they're also in a coop, and I've locked that coop up. I've nailed it all. I fixed all that coop up. So there's levels of security to the chickens, right? And I think they're good, but it was hard to do it, and I'm not even sure it's going to be safe. And the fox might well still get in and might still well eat all the chickens. So I'm gonna have to learn from that, find out how he did it, fix my security, and then go again and potentially buy some more chickens.
Or you could pay the fox not to murder the chickens.
If that was an option, I absolutely would do it. I'd leave some freaking money outside and go, or some chicken. If I didn't think I was baiting a fox into the live chickens, I would leave chicken outside the run. But yeah, it's like, so securing those chickens isn't easy, right? Is my point. And I might fail because the fox is going to be smart. He's going to get through my security. So I'm going to have to look at that and then fix my security before I buy any more chickens, because otherwise he's going to come straight back and nail them all again. And it's the same with Bitcoin, right? But we're not talking about chickens here that are easily replaceable. We're talking about your generational wealth. So if literally the amount of time I spent on that fucking chicken coop outside there, if people had spent even a tenth of that on securing their money, they'd be fine. They'd absolutely be fine. I spent weeks out there fucking doing that thing. Spend a couple of days securing your Bitcoin and you're good.
It's funny you say this. It's just reminded me, I saw a message from Ray Dalio talking about his animated video of the new changing world order has been condensed from the 35-minute video, animated video, to a 5-minute video.
Ooh.
And so it's like, we're making this easier and easier. So we've gone from a book to a 35-minute animated video to now a abbreviated 5-minute video, and people still won't probably get it. Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to watch that. I've read the book.
You have, you passed.
See, this is the audience. To be honest, I honestly did think you were going to wait for the 7-second TikTok, but at least you're going for the 5-minute video. Get a little underage girl dancing around to fiat finance, and you'll be right there.
Just very, very curious about it. I think we talked
literally the same content, just boiled down to like the key points, which in reality won't tell you the full story, will they? Because the only reason why the book has such an impact is because he backs it up with facts, and all the history is there. Yeah. If it's in 5 minutes, it's just going to be, oh look, all countries go up and they fall in this manner, and therefore look, the US is falling and China's going to take over. And you're like, well, why? Where's the evidence? And there won't be any in a 5-minute video because not enough time to say it.
Yeah.
I'm still going to watch it. Anyway, should we move on to the next story?
Let's.
So the next one was this last year, this was an announcement where the Miami mayor said they're going to be paid Bitcoin, and I think the only kind of like amendment to this is it's via Strike.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago. He said that he was going to. I think he said he was going to get paid his first couple of months.
That's right.
In Bitcoin, that's what his initial statement was. And he's clarifying it now 2 years later. What's he saying?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say,
for 2 weeks, my mayoral salary is directly deposited into my Strike account and converted directly into Bitcoin.
Yeah. So because that's the thing. When he said it, this Miami mayor, I was skeptical of him at the time. I thought he was doing the same thing, maybe that Kennedy is doing, kind of winning votes. Obviously, Miami are quite a anti-establishment state, and obviously Bitcoiners are. So it looked like a bit of a token gesture to go, I'm going to get paid 2 months of my salary in Bitcoin. You go, well, yeah, well done. Who gives a shit?
But he doesn't need the salary, though, from what I've read about him.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like so who knows? It might even still be freaking pompous and have no substance. But at least his initial statement was, I'm going to have 2 months of it and then get paid the rest in fiat. And I go, what? So you're going to do 10 months in fiat, or potentially multiple dozens of months in fiat and 2 months in Bitcoin. And who knows what you're going to do with that Bitcoin for 2 months? You're going to convert it straight into fiat anyway. Who knows? But apparently, he got up on stage and said, oh no, I got paid in Bitcoin for 2 months and decided just to extend it all the way through. So the last 2 years, I've been paid in Bitcoin and I hold that Bitcoin now. So It looks like
I
maybe
think you'd have to
like,
see proof, but then it is, like I said, it's just he doesn't need it. So it's almost like he is, I don't know what the correct term is, but almost virtue signaling to the audience.
yeah, he might be. But then this is a good virtue signal, right? This is a very senior, well-liked politician who is the mayor of Miami, and he's going, I'm paid in Bitcoin. So
Yeah.
I don't trust him. He's a politician, but
It
it's
is
a
a
politician
statement.
saying he's on a Bitcoin standard, and that's pretty big.
Yeah, it is a statement. I suppose it's a positive. Look, so this is another Reddit link, and the first comment, which made me laugh, is Scammo promoted some fucking Miami coin.
Yeah, I don't think that ever even came out because people just went, "Don't do it, bro." So he didn't.
Yeah. So yeah, I suppose it is a positive. I don't know if there's anything which we can really go into deep on this story.
Nah, just
Not at this moment.
move on to the next one.
Altcoiner mortgages. So, two of my loves, property and Bitcoin, all in one. So, apparently, so Brad Mills has said, I was looking through the companies presenting at Bitcoin 2023, and I came across Pristine Financial, which looks a pretty awesome service. They let you get a mortgage on one Bitcoin so you can become a altcoiner. Full service. So essentially, if you can get to one Bitcoin, is it like a savings?
No, what they essentially allow you to go right. Let's say you want one
Mm.
Bitcoin, which currently is 27 grand, right? So they will essentially give you a loan for 27 grand, and that way you obviously you check how many years you want to repay it over. So they'll go, all right, okay, fine. So one Bitcoin is $27,000. Say we're going to charge you $434 worth of admin fees. So your total payable will be that plus the fees. But at the end, you get one Bitcoin, and you might have decided to pay that back over 5 years. Obviously, the price of Bitcoin could shoot up in that time. So you've essentially locked in the price of a Bitcoin for 27K plus their admin fees. So you become a whole coiner. So essentially you're DCAing into Bitcoin, but at today's price, you lock in today's price and don't risk in 5 years the price 10xing. And now you're like, well, I'm never going to be a whole coiner now because the price 10x. So you lock it in now.
I'm in.
I think a couple of the issues which I see with this is what happens if price moons? Will they still honor it? What happens if the price bottoms? Will the customer still honor it? Yes. So yeah, I'm trying to buy a Bitcoin when it's say 60K, and by the end of the year, well, actually you're buying it over 3 years, and year 2 it goes down to 12K. Is the customer still going to be on that? How's that going to impact? I'm guessing it's some kind of financial agreement, which means that
it's a risk reward, isn't it, on both sides?
But then it's also
both parties.
What happens if this company go bankrupt? I think it's just I look at this and I'm just going. I feel like it's Mr. Orland said it earlier on about the ledgers. They're trying to create a solution where there's not really a problem. Why aren't you just looking at DCA?
Yeah,
I think this is just YOLOing, kind of going, oh shit, I better jump in. And there's too many risks surrounding this. Like, what happens if you've paid 60% of it, the company folds, you don't get your Bitcoin? Whereas if you've DCA'd it for that year or two, you've got your Bitcoin just at different prices, which could be down, could be up, but at least you got the average.
Yeah, no, I think it's spot on. The game theory that works behind this, this only really works. This company will only exist in 5 years if the price of Bitcoin is relatively stable. If the price moons, then there's very high potential of corruption within the company. And if the price bottoms, everyone's going to default. No one's going to want to buy a Bitcoin at 27K when the current price is 7K. Everyone's just going to go, oh, I'm bankrupt and not pay it. So that means Pristine Financial go bankrupt because they got a load of bad debt. So it just doesn't really work. I think if you want to be a whole coiner and you're getting massive FOMO and you've got credit that's good enough to get a 27 grand loan, get the 27 grand loan in fiat now, buy your Bitcoin. There you go. You got your Bitcoin and you're not having to wait 5 years to receive it. You got it right now. Send it to your hardware device that is not Ledger. It is a Jade or a Cold Card. And then you have a 27 grand loan that you need to pay back in pounds or dollars to the bank.
What? Just tell the bank you're buying a car. Don't tell me you're buying Bitcoin.
Yeah, do not tell them that we always.
Though I just like to point out this is not financial advice.
Yeah. Although to be fair, that bit probably is, because me saying just get a loan for 27 grand and buy a Bitcoin is they won't allow you to do that. Like you would need to give a
I just think, advise anyone just to DCA.
Don't worry about the price of Bitcoin and just get DCA.
Yeah, don't get yourself into massive amounts of debt. Don't be a fiat head. Just become a Bitcoiner and just DCA into it.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, if you want to be a whole coiner, if you got credit for 27 grand, then yeah, I wouldn't suggest getting it. I'd say, well, that means you should have. If you look around your disposable assets you have now, you probably have cars, houses, kidneys. Sell something that you don't need, and then with the profits from that, buy your Bitcoin. You might have an 80 grand car sat in the driveway, and you're going, "Oh, I haven't got enough money for a whole coin. I've only got 2 grand in the bank." You've got 80 grand sat in the driveway. Maybe downgrade that car and buy a couple of Bitcoin with your change and get a sensible car instead. Don't go straight away to what can I leverage to get debt. I don't agree with debt in any shape or form anyway, so I would never be massively in fan of a service like this. I'm always earn the money, carve a bit off, and buy your Bitcoin.
It's definitely not this.
Yeah, I'm reading through the comments to kind of understand the classic questions of what we've asked first, which is, the defaults or on both sides, if the price was to moon, etc. And I can't see a sound response from anybody yet.
I think if it was me setting up this company, which I wouldn't, I would be looking at short-term gains before it goes bankrupt. As the founder, I'd be trying to extract as much money from that company as quickly as I could. So it's only going to go one way. I mean, as we've seen Bitcoin across its life, it has not been a constant improvement. It's not been steady. It's been very volatile. So it's going to go bankrupt at some point. So as a founder, you're going to pull as much money as quickly as you can from that company to make your money and walk away.
Yeah, it sounds like another BlockFi.
Yeah,
it's another financial institution that's set up like, oh yeah, send us your Bitcoin, we'll hold it, and then you'll get 5%, 7% interest every year. What happened there, right?
It's just in a new wrapper.
It all went to pot.
Yeah, exactly. This is just like, we want your fiat. We'll give you a Bitcoin at the end of it, but high chance we'll be bankrupt. Yeah. We'll be liquidating all that Bitcoin at the end of it, along with your payments.
Yeah, something will go wrong.
And it'll be first of all to creditors. Oh, and one of the biggest creditors is our founder.
And he submitted his application first. So
yeah, strangely, 1 second after they went bankrupt. Yeah, kind of, I suppose, after moving on to the next one, we've got mention of a favorite name in here, but it's not actually about our favorite country for once. I think we've had a few weeks of Argentina, but this is actually about Ghana. But they are being helped out by everyone's favorite agency, who is country independent and doesn't belong to America or is part of America, the IMF. So the IMF, because they're really, really, really nice people, have offered to lend Ghana some money. And
have they ever done this before? The IMF?
I'm sure
they've done it a few times, to various countries. It's only the 17th time for Ghana in 60 years.
Is it? Is that the official number?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
official number.
17. So they're saving Ghana's worked so well. This is the 18th time.
No, this
Yep,
is the
so across-
this is the 17th.
Yeah, so the 17th time, but it's the 17th time since independence, more than 6 decades ago. So over the last
It seems
16
like
years,
it's working if they can keep on repaying these loans.
Yeah.
Seems to be working great with inflation at 41%.
Mm.
Well, when you say 41%, don't you mean 120?
Yeah, because that's the bollocks CPI probably. Yeah.
I mean, effectively, it works out that they go back to the IMF to ask for more money every 3.5 years.
And it's just fake dollars coming out of nowhere that basically slowly but surely means that US will own Ghana, right? So what is it? They're offering them $3 billion and they want the first tranche of 600 million soon. Like, in reality, like 600 million. But that's such a small amount of money, really, isn't it? In country level stuff, right? If you have inflation of 41% and people are protesting in the street because they can't afford just to live and to feed their families, 600 million, what is that going to do? Literally just nothing other than, I'd imagine this first 600 million is just to grease the hands of all the politicians that want a couple of million each. That's all that's going to do. It wouldn't.
It's
even if you planted all that money into bread or something, right, and went, you know what, we're going to subsidize the price of bread, spend all 600 million on that, it probably reduced the price of bread by about 10%. It wouldn't get it anywhere near what it was just last year. Never mind trying to really go, let's just make sure people have bread. It's such a nonsensical amount of money. It's just silly.
It just seems like in order to solve it, you need to work out a way to remove the government and the taxes. That'll probably be the way to resolve it.
We know that the real individuals that need the money aren't getting the money.
Yeah.
And that's why they've needed so many loans over the last 60 years.
But you kind of think the average individual in Ghana, have they seen literally $1 of this money? You know, all they've been lumbered with is debt as a country, but also the fact they're getting rapid inflation every year. So literally, if you had a free-for-all country, they would probably fare better than what's going on there. And that's really, really sad fact about it. And like you mentioned, 3 billion. 3 billion is not going to do anything to a country that size. But when you go, well, why the IMF loaning money into there? What would the IMF, who are not connected with the US, want to go into Ghana for? What natural resources has Ghana got? So the top 10 natural resources: timber, bauxite, whatever that is, manganese, oil, and diamonds. And it's the second largest producer of gold in Africa.
Oh, want some of that shiny rock.
So could they be copying China and Russia by hoarding gold?
Yeah. In reality, every time I see this, IMF loan, it's either to cripple the country and get them to default, or it's just a bribe, and it basically buys the politicians at the top and go, look, there's some regulation and some deals coming your way from the US. Just say yes. If you say yes, you get $3 billion, and you get 600 million now, just as a little warm up. And then we'll have some meetings, sign some important papers, and the rest of the money will be winging its way over to you. And what they will do is rape and pillage that country of all its natural resources.
They've not done that before with the canal access to Panama. They've not done that with the oil in Ecuador. They've not done that with the oil in Saudi Arabia. They've not done that with the oil in Iraq.
France haven't done it with
how dare you?
French territories. Britain don't do it with their what would we call it? The
Commonwealth.
The Commonwealth, that's it. It's
Yeah.
laughable in its name. Commonwealth. The common man has the same wealth.
Commonwealth. Yeah.
It's more like
Um,
the elitist wealth.
What's really funny on this is it's actually part of the article. So it's BBC, so British Propaganda Corporation. Ghana, long seen as one of Africa's best-run countries, has been struggling to recover from the combined effects of a global COVID pandemic and the war in Ukraine.
How the hell has the war in Ukraine affected Ghana?
You're sounding like a white supremacist there.
And I bet they didn't lock down. I bet they didn't lock down for a single day. And I bet like less than 1% of the population are vaccinated. The COVID had zero impact on them.
And it's also the Ukraine war has been going on for a year. And typically the inflation takes roughly 18 to 24 months to go through. And then additionally, thrown to that, they've had this issue for 60 years because they've had to have IMF loans 17 times. But funnily enough, it does say the opposition blames the crisis on what it calls. Ooh.
Talking much.
But the opposition also blames the crisis on what it calls the gross mismanagement of the economy, an allegation the government has denied. And the line is, Ghana's government will have to increase its income whilst reducing spending, Information Minister Kojo Opong Nurma told the BBC. And it's just like, I just think about this, I'm kind of going, what spending are they actually doing for the common man there? It's going into pockets left, right, and centre. It is just so horrendous. And you don't think of this when you're in Fiat land.
I think that the worst type of spending is when they say their spending is to fight inflation. You just go, what the fuck does that mean?
You're not a patriot.
Because at least when they say, oh, what's this spending for? Oh, it's for education or it's for health. You go, okay, and the next question is like, how? And you go, oh, we're going to build this many hospitals, that many schools. And obviously they're 10xing the cost of the thing and then filtering it off to third-party contractors. But at least you get some schools and hospitals at the end, right? You could have got 10x the amount.
I literally think they'll be lucky to get a single hospital out of this.
Well, that's what I mean, right? This is what I mean. When you're helping the economy, it's like, oh, where does that fucking money? It just goes, oh, well, the price of bread's too expensive. Oh, these guys make bread. Have $1 billion each. Can you reduce the price of bread? Yeah, okay, I'll reduce it by 10% for a week. What? By 10%, you said 10%. But then the price of bread quite quickly just climbs again. And you go, all this money just gets absorbed by the people that are the most corrupt and the nearest to the money printer. And the people at the bottom get literally nothing from it.
Well, the people at the bottom do get something.
Get some freedom.
So this means, so Ghana's government will have to increase its income whilst reducing spending, blah, blah, blah. This means taxes are likely to rise along with the price of water, electricity, and fuel. So you're saying they're not getting anything, but they're getting higher taxes. The government.
Hold on, and so to fight inflation, and they're going to get higher taxes. That'll fix it.
But one of the hills which they've got overcome is the government has already introduced new taxes on things like cigarettes, sweet drinks, spirits, and wine, as well as an increase in income tax. So I think they're going to have to go for something like carbon tax on this one.
So all the fun stuff has already been taxed. So now they're looking for the alternative tax.
Yeah, they're going to have to work out what they can tax next. Maybe windows. I think we did that in the UK back in about the 1600s. There's a famous window tax. So everyone boarded up their houses and lived in darkness.
Yeah.
Or there could be the sex on Monday tax, which the church used to do. You could, if you paid a tax, you could have sex on a Monday. But if you didn't pay that tax, you're going to hell.
That was a genius one. God's
well, we are actually seeing tax on things that we never thought that we would see tax on. So effectively, you are being taxed to use a plastic bag in shopping markets. That's a tax.
after they guilt tripped you from using paper bags because you were chopping down trees, so they moved you onto plastic bags and got dependency on that and then taxed them.
Yeah.
They were free for a little bit, and then what are they now? Like 40, 50 pounds?
Yeah.
Used to be 10p, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
We like this little new revenue stream. Let's up this, and they'll continue to up it.
So it's actually a question. So I know that Mr. Allins read The Sovereign Individual, but have you, Sir Neverlook?
I have listened to it.
Okay, I was going to say because
It's a long one.
Because kind of what you're going on now is like all the odd taxes, and we are seeing them mount up. And I was talking to someone about this tonight. The carbon tax in Canada, I think we got 2 levels of carbon tax, which Trudeau's put in. And my kind of like point was, how much of that is going to planting trees, making renewable energy? 0. And it's literally they will tax on anything which they can. And it's the current thing, which is a climate crisis, so tax on carbon. And literally, I think that's what Ghana are going to do. It would surprise me if they aren't. And then we'll get our media saying how heroic they are.
Yeah.
It's in reality, when you zoom out and just go, that they're trying to make us poor and trying to make every country dependent on the same global unelected bureaucrats. Because one of the questions I always used to ask is, there's IMF, who are independent, no government is like voted them in, no people voted them in. They're just this floating organization, right? And governments just donate money to them. Who signed off like 3 billion just goes to Ghana? Who decided that? And how much money do they have? They seem to have billions every other day. They're giving 3 billion here, 15 billion there. Where the fuck's all this money coming from? And really, when you trace it all back, the majority of the funding comes from America. So really, this is US tax money.
But it's also they bankrupt countries, so they take their natural resources. So the IMF will always be funded, and this is so from where was it? The Economic Hitman, which is one of the best yet worst books which I've ever read. Well, actually listened to. It's just horrendous because it goes through all this. And you kind of go, that can't be true. When you have a Google and you kind of go, it is. This is all true, and it's absolutely bloody horrendous. And I saw a story which is similar about Ghana, which is Angola, and someone used a comparison on Twitter saying that China are backing Angola and they're paying for hydro plants. And it's just like they're doing the same thing, just under a different term, and they're actually producing something because, well, I think there's some level of integrity around China, but well, they'll be getting their money's worth out the back of it.
Oh, of course.
To your point, Mr. Orlin, I think there's probably an IMF chart with every country in the world, and along that chart, you've got your resources along the top, and then payback terms along the bottom, and you kind of have a look on the axis of, yeah, we need more gold in the coffers.
Would you have an obedience row or column?
Yeah,
I would. And I think ultimately the goal of the IMF really is to make sure all these countries default, right? So it's all like, these countries are very regular payers. What does that mean? Up the loan. These monthly repayments aren't big enough. They're making it.
Yeah.
There's no point giving these countries loans that they can afford to pay back. Keep loaning it until they get in such a mess that we can just come in and take it all for free because they default.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly. The aim of the game is actually to take the resources, but you can't just be so blatant and explicit that we want it. We have to, you have to do a little bit of jockeying back and forth, and then, you've not made it this time. You've rolled a double 6 for the 3rd time. You're in jail, and we're going to take your money.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want to pay back? You sound like terrorists. What are you trying to stand up to us? You're white supremacists.
What's the other scam, isn't it? Like, it depends. Once you default, then they test how you react. And if you just bend over and go, we're sorry, we'll do different payment scams and we'll sign over our resources to you, then you get to live. But if you don't, you just
and you get more money, clearly.
You go, fuck you. So there's a different guy that comes to meet you, and that guy goes, want to buy some guns? And you're like, yeah, I fucking do want to buy some guns. We need some fucking independence from the US. And they're like, got some great deals on some guns. You buy all the guns, and the problem is America turn up a couple of years later and go, we heard you got guns. We think you're a threat. Time for some freedom bombs. You're like, hold on, I bought this gun from you. He's like, I know you did, at a very inflated price. And now, because you're holding it, I'm allowed to bomb you because it's just self-defense, bro.
Needs more democracy.
Oh, man. Anyway, should we go on to blocking Binance transfers?
So we're going for, what is it? Is this in southern China?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got American China, and southern China. So this is
this is Australia.
Yeah,
I was going to say this is
southern China.
It's like you've got North American China, Canada. You've got southern China, Australia. Well, actually, you've got another southern China, which is New Zealand.
New Zealand, yeah.
It's all these totalitarian states which showed their true colours during the lockdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely are the trial states. Australia.
So this is mid-southern China in terms of Australia.
Yeah,
and then you've got
this could be
South China.
Yeah, this could be kangaroo China.
Okay.
And New Zealand could be, I don't know, Hobbit China.
Kiwi China.
But yeah, it's a specific bank which has banned customers from transferring funds to the largest cryptocurrency exchange, Binance. But it's for their own good. It's in a move aimed at reducing losses from scams. I did not know that you could transfer money to Binance for a scam.
And
it's
not your address. As I'm guessing, the only way to scam by sending it to an exchange is to go ring someone up and go, yeah, send your money from your account, but send it to my account. That would be the scam.
But you're sending it to someone's account, so you're an idiot.
Exactly.
So
that's I always with this stuff, right? It's, as you said, like quite cynically, it's like, oh, it's designed to reduce losses from scams, because it is stupid. Because there's nothing different from a scammer ringing you up, convincing you to do a thing, and then just move money to his bank account or to buy something from him that doesn't exist, right? It's just an exchange of money from one place to another. And in this scam, and obviously we know there's loads of scams around crypto and all that, because sending money to a crypto exchange, especially something like Binance, you probably could convert it into some weird shit coin, send it off that platform nice and quick, and kind of go dark with the money, and no one's going to be able to trace it. But yeah, that doesn't mean that's the core reason that people use exchanges. This is just some idiots that have been called up, been emailed, been asked to send money to a random Binance account, and they've done it. But I'd imagine if they added up the amount of money that got lost that way, in the scheme of things, it would be tiny. Yeah, they're justifying that as a blanket ban on this exchange, which is
what's also interesting, I don't know if you guys saw the other story in terms of researching for today, but Australia banned Binance by revoking its license. So therefore, it could no longer operate as well in Australia. So it's been hit with a double whammy in the last 2 months. So it's had its license revoked, and then the biggest bank is then saying that, see, people can't off-ramp into Binance as well. So this again is probably another way that the government is coming after Bitcoin, even though Binance isn't Bitcoin only, of course. But it's just another hurdle to put in the place of consumers and to deter them from using any form of cryptocurrency.
I just scrolled to the bottom of the article, right? The numbers are there. So
Yeah.
basically, in Australia, they estimate there's 3.1 billion were lost through scamming, right, from their Australian citizens. Investment scams account for 1.5 billion of this, so that's half of it, right? And that's just normal investment scams, which is people changing money from one bank account to another bank account. Therefore, let's ban banks because they're responsible for half of the scam, right? However, they then go all the way down the bottom. It's 221 million was lost, they predict, through cryptocurrency scams. That is a tiny fucking percentage of the 3.1 billion, of which are financial scamming.
So, but funnily enough, like Binance are being targeted by a lot of the kind of like G7 countries. So it's happened in Canada,
Yeah,
it's happened in the UK, and I think they haven't been fully banned in Europe as far as I know, but for derivatives trading. So it's happening. They're being shut off. Is it because they're China or is it because they're crypto?
Yeah, it's good as China.
When
China don't agree to share all the KYC and AML records of everyone. So the money goes a bit dark once it goes over that way. Same as Russia. If Russia had a big exchange, they'd be getting shut down as well.
Yeah, 100%.
If you're in the Western world, everyone agrees to share all the customer data with each other. So
okay, that makes sense because I've seen some of the things around why Australia have banned Binance, and yeah, it fits with that. It's basically not going to the records, is it?
Yeah, they say they're not adhering to all the regulation, but they do KYC and AML checking when you sign up for Binance. They literally do. The difference is they don't care that those checks are being made. They want them shared as well, and they're not supposed to share all of it unless you've got a warrant for someone. But with China, just tell them to fuck off when they come in.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, because last week I met two guys from Binance that worked in their marketing team, and they said, after working here for the length of time that we have, we know that Binance is super compliant, even though people and the narrative out there makes us look like we're a bunch of cowboys. And then not only that, they also said when the story hit that Binance wasn't liquid, and we had a $10 billion hit on one day, but yet we were still running. It didn't touch the sides. But the nothing burger of that story wasn't necessarily then communicated out to everybody, and we're still here. It's oh my god, get your money off Binance.
Yeah,
it's a liquid.
Yeah, who was this you were talking to? Someone that worked at Binance?
Yeah, so two guys at Binance.
Because obviously they would say that, right? They would. We don't know. It was impressive because he was it that went under. Obviously, FTX went under, and then there was a number. BlockFi went under. Yeah, that was it. Well, all those companies are going but, and then it was all just Binance looked like they're
going to be next. Yeah,
Crypto.com. And to be fair, like a lot of people withdrew a lot of money from those exchanges.
Yeah, they did.
It's months and months later now, and they didn't go bust. So they obviously did have large amount of funds, which is good to see. Not everyone was just gambling on Scam Bankman-Fried's freaking Ponzi scheme, gambling, whatever he was doing. It's nice to know that there was some exchanges, even if they are into shitcoins, they were at least managing their money sensibly. Because Binance is the #1 exchange in the world, and it has such a huge amount of traffic. They don't need to fucking gamble. All they need to do is sit at the back and take a fee on every trade, and they will make billions. They don't.
It's the same with all these large ones. FTX didn't need to. They were
I think FTX were built like that to do that. They didn't need to, but
They did it since day
wanted
one,
to.
didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
And they weren't even as big as they said they were. They were just freaking using customer funds to buy FTX names on baseball grounds. And it's just, how the hell have they got all this money to buy this stuff? And it turns out they didn't have that money. They were using customer funds.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nuts. They weren't using profits, they were using deposit. Oh, wow.
I realised actually that my love for Formula One, and this might be a collector's item one day.
Oh, what's that for Mercedes? FTC,
Yeah,
Mercedes. That to get that badge on there was probably 20 mil or something.
Exactly. Yeah, they were sponsoring up everything.
We'll talk about sponsorship.
I just want to mention CZ as well, because the CEO of Ledger was saying, "Oh, thanks again, CZ, for dunking on Ledger in our crisis, in our time of crisis." And I feel like there's going to be a whodunit with CZ, because he doesn't have many friends, but he has a lot of enemies. And I could see him one day getting suicided off.
Well, provided he stays in China, he'd be fine. Because
I was going to say he's a Chinese asset, so
his enemies are in the West. He spends too much time in Canada, because I think he is.
Well, he's Chinese Canadian, yeah. Remember,
I think he's born in China, but then moved to Canada and then started Binance, but then moved back to China. And I think he'd be smart to stay there, because at the moment he'd be definitely on suicide watch if he was in Canada right now.
Yeah.
He's causing far too many problems, and having the company essentially based in China means they're not in the jurisdiction of the US. So they can't have access to all the data. They don't like that. They like being able to see where all the money is. They want to make sure they're getting their tax benefits and everyone's paying their taxes like good little boys. And
I think also control the man at the top.
Yeah. Oh, actually, by the way, just a slight aside. I just realised that thinking about it now, I'm threatened to have my bank accounts closed, by the way, at the moment, because so my main bank that I banked with since I was like 16, they sent me a letter the other day going, there's a number of large transactions that have moved around, and obviously I've bought a house, right? So of course large amounts of money have moved around. And they're going, you need to prove that where the source of funds for all these things are within 30 days, or we're going to shut all your bank accounts. And I'm like, okay. I've got a feeling I'll try and do it. I'll try and give them the proof, even though they have it all. But I've got a feeling this is going to be it's a good job I got lots of bank accounts, right? Because I've got a feeling my main one, with Barclays, I've got a feeling even though they have profited off me a huge amount, they are essentially going to cease trading with me because I have too many large transactions. I'm also a Bitcoiner, and they're going, we don't want you. So
you've been running your mouth and it's caught up with you, and Barclays are like, yeah, we're going to take Mr. Orlin down.
Yeah. But I've got an account with every single bank that will give me one, because I kind of knew this was going to happen. So I can just move it all over. I'll try and give them the evidence they want, but it's just because one of the items on it is, you can give us your tax return. I'm like, okay, well, fine. Like, you're just going to give this to the government anyway, and the government already have my tax return. So there's my tax return. But I've got a feeling they're going to go, after careful consideration, we're still going to cease business with you. We wish you well in the future. You have 30 days to move all your direct debits. But anyway, whatever. Fuck banks. Banks are fucking scum. I can't wait to move on to a Bitcoin standard when I don't have to have letters in the post that go, we're going to shut your accounts because you moved too much money around last year, sir. Like, fuck you. Who are you to say I moved too much money around? I bought a house, dickhead. Of course I moved a lot of money around. Fucking land you live in.
But they were depending on that. They were depending on using that, and you scuppered their plans.
Well, I think they're salty. They only saw it for like 12 minutes.
Yeah,
the money arrived. and then went out again.
Yeah.
They're like, we wanted that money in there so we could just loan it out 24 times.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were like, oh gosh, he's just took it. We're going to have to get the money from somewhere else.
I do get it because I keep my bank account on such a low balance. Like literally the price of a house lands, and then the next day the price of the value of a house leaves again. And I'm like, who is this fucking guy? He's fucking poor all the time, and then a huge amount of money arrives and then goes again. Like, we can't nail him down. Like, we want to get this money and fucking loan it out and fucking invest it and earn our money. And this guy is just playing the system. And yeah, I am. I don't trust you. So the one time there was money in there, of course they moved it out again.
I say it goes into what's it called, an escrow account for the estate agents to then be transferred onto the seller of the house, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So therefore, that escrow account would have been marked, and they would have known that it would have been a house purchase, but also you would have had to go through a solicitor and estate agents who both would have done independent anti-money laundering checks on you.
Yeah.
So literally, like, what they're doing is, there's no point to it because it's been done twice at least.
Yeah. They could just, like, what is the query? I bought a house last year, and what? But yeah, they're threatening to close my account, and I'm pretty sure it's closed. They're giving me 30 days to prove it's fine, but I think this is just a 30-day warning of we're closing your account. There's no amount of proof I can give them. I don't think they're just going to decide not to do business with me at the end of this. And they won't give you.
Just point them to the solicitors and estate agents. Go, this is why.
Well, I know that's the thing. When I had to move the account money from Barclays, obviously you can't do this yourself online. You can't move a house money. I went into the fucking branch, signed forms and all that kind of stuff, and had the money moved. They know the reason. They had to double, triple check the account I was sending it to. I'm like, yes, that's the solicitors that receive the money that are going to escrow it for the client. And so they know it all. Barclays know the entire story. And then they send me a letter going, what the hell's all this? It's just, I know what they can see. They've got all my deposits and withdrawals in Coinbase and in Kraken. And they're like, where's all the source of funds for all this? And it's just like, just look back through it. Like, it's all fucking there. Like, you literally, the majority of my banking goes through them. It's all there. But yeah, they've clearly just decided that they're going to end the relationship. So they need to give me the 30 days to go, I'll prove your innocence. And at the end of that, they're going to go, you didn't prove it, you're gone. So yeah, whatever. Fuck them. But,
okay, well, we've just found this week's thumbnail.
Yeah.
Just put your face on there and put my face on there. It'll get the clicking.
Yeah, so I just thought we just finish with like some cool artwork. So yeah, the co-founder of Bitcoin Lessons, Chris, commissioned some cool artwork from World of Rusty. Don't know if you guys have ever come across this guy before, but he's a really cool artist in Bitcoin. And yeah, so for my birthday, Chris got me, basically there's a GIF in the link, but got the real thing.
I didn't know he was involved with Bitcoin Lessons.
Yeah, Chris.
Ah,
there it is.
Yeah, he didn't tell us that part.
Oh yeah, Chris wrote most of the code.
Oh, nice. Right. Okay. In his spare time.
Yeah, he's moonlighting with me whilst working in the company. Yeah, but yeah, he's he owns a big chunk of Bitcoin Lessons, and yeah, wrote a load of code, and yeah, so for my birthday he got that created, which is
that's really cool. By the way, really cool.
Yeah, it's a GIF, it's an image, probably a thumbnail. So just thought we'd end it on a light note because it's God, these podcasts are getting pretty heavy, aren't they? It's a lot of doom and gloom, even in Bitcoin land. Like we really need fucking good news, because at the moment the big news in Bitcoin, that's negative as well at the moment, and fiat's negative. Like, holy shit, it's fucking a lot of downs, isn't it?
yeah.
There's nowhere to go. Like, what do you do with your money? It's like, fuck knows. Maybe just fucking spend it on a Ferrari and have a good time, because no matter where else you put it, it's fucking getting stolen.
Yeah, this is not financial advice, but just buy the Ferrari.
Just have a good like next year, and
Yeah.
who fucking knows what's going to happen after that? And the whole world's going nuts. But
On that positive note,
Well, on that positive note, this has been Pod 99, brought to you by Mr. Orlin, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and of course, she was here, but she's never here, Mrs. No Show, our ESG respondent. Peace.